Hello and welcome back to another video. This week I'm going to be discussing the MiG-23, specifically the MLD from the Russian tech tree. Last week I talked about the J35XS and why it's better than the other premium that is available to the Swedes. And this time I want to talk about the MiG-23 because recently I got back into it and I got some footage, so I want to talk about it. So this is one of the aircraft in the Russian tech tree that I was really excited for, and when I finally unlocked it, I really wasn't disappointed. I was disappointed by the first version of the MiG-23, the MiG-23M, which has just an awful loadout and very bad radar and bad missiles. You can get work done with it, but not very easily. However, with the MiG-23 MLD, or the ML, you can do a lot. So let's talk about it. In short range, you get access to a CCIP and R60Ms. The R60Ms are not amazing, but they can do work in the right situation. There you go. That guy goes down. I wasn't using a CCIP in that clip, though. So the R60Ms, they have pretty poor flare resistance, but in the right situations, especially when you're shooting from behind, you can get some kills with it. And it's all aspect. So if you get behind somebody or next to somebody that's not paying attention, you can just shoot them right down. This guy, however, they were paying attention, so I don't think I get a kill with the R60. Let's see. No. I believe this guy just runs right into the ground. Yeah. So for its tier, the MiG-23 actually has pretty decent capabilities. It's not as good, I would say, as the JA-37C, because the C is at 11.3 and this thing's at 11.7. So sometimes you can encounter the occasional F-14, F-18, and the occasional F-16 when you play this one. So you have to deal with a couple of superior aircraft. Not too much of a problem, though, as long as you know what you're doing. At long ranges, you can use the R-24R like I just did. And even up to like 20, 25 kilometers, sometimes you can get kills with the thing. You see, this guy, he was even running away from me and everything, trying to run my missile out of energy, but it didn't work. The R-24R is probably one of the best missiles in the game. It has inertial guidance, even though it's just a semi-active radar homing missile. It still gets the work done. And this thing has a pretty decent radar. It's a little bit sensitive to chaff, and sometimes that'll mess you up. But most of the time, you're going to be fine. Another great thing about this aircraft is that it shows up in a couple of different tech trees. Mainly, it shows up in the German tech tree, and it shows up in the USSR tech tree. It also shows up in the Italian tech tree, but I believe you don't even get that good a version of it, so it's probably not worth using because it's pretty much the same as the MiG-23M, and the MiG-23M is not very good. Boom. There he goes. And there we go. The Delta Wing, or I like to call it the Delta Wing. When it has its wings folded out like that, it has very good turn rate. The Variable Geometry Wing is one of the greatest advantages of this aircraft. When it has its wings swept back, it basically flies like a dart through the air, and it's very, very fast, which is great for the long-range engagements you can get at in high altitudes. And then when you sweep the wings back out, it basically turns into a big delta wing, or it performs like one because the turn rate is amazing. I've beaten things like F5s in this aircraft with the wings swept out. So the great things about this aircraft are the speed, the variable geometry wings, its loadout, and it gets decent radar. It's not an amazing radar. It's not like the J37C that gets a great radar with trackwell scan. It does have a couple things that are a little bit bad about it. For example, the turn rate while the wings are swept back like this is not great. You have to wait for the wings to sweep back out, and you have to reduce your speed a little bit so that you can actually turn. But this guy's going to go down right now with an R24. Boom, here we go. So the R24, it has inertial guidance, which means that it kind of remembers where your target is. Even when you lose a radar lock, you still have the missile going towards the target. So the target can kind of lose your lock, use its chaff, whatever. But as long as they don't turn too drastically, the R24 is going to find it. Here we go. This is a nice two-piece kill right here. I think these guys are newbies, though, because they barely even notice me. There's one. Here's another. Boom. So at its tier, the MiG-23 is great. Compared to something like the F4 gets a lot of missiles, and it has decent speed, but the turn radius is something that is never going to be as good as the MiG-23. The MiG-23 with the wings, it can always outturn an F4. So in a gunfight, you're never going to win against a MiG-23. The range that you get from the MiG-23 is insane. I have a couple clips in here where I'm launching at like 20, 25 kilometers, and I'm still getting the kill. Here we go. This guy doesn't want to die. I launch another missile at him, and he doesn't die. I think he ends up J'ing out. So to wrap things up, the MiG-23 is probably one of the best aircraft at the tier. In an up tier, you'll occasionally get into fights with MiG-29s, with F-18s, F-16s, and F-14s. But in general, you're going to be encountering things more like F-4s, F-5s, a couple Mirages, but nothing too crazy. It has a lot of advantages. It has good speed, while also at low speed having good maneuverability. It has a great loadout. And it looks awesome. So that is why you should try and unlock the MiG-23 or buy the MiG-23 ML. It's a great aircraft. It outclasses most of the things that it encounters, and it's an amazing grinder. So thank you all for watching, and tune in next week for another long video.